There you are.
Okay. All right, Brian, I see you're on the computer. I was just informed that, is this true, Chris, as of June 8th? You don't count anymore if you're on the computer or something?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I was made aware of that, but you know.
Well, we're glad
But
you're
it's
here,
all
but I don't know, I mean, does that mean but he can't vote or?
His votes will, can't vote, it doesn't count towards a quorum. And so you would have no different than if any other legislator,
Yep.
non-member of the committee dialed in, they could.
Yeah, so if you want to say anything, Brian, that's fine, but apparently your vote don't count and we have a quorum anyhow. So. All right, so appointments. Can I get a motion on those?
Move them all.
Okay, Mr. Didio, second from somebody?
Second.
Second, Christina. All right, anybody got any questions or concerns with them?
A quick question on these, Chairman.
Yeah.
Appointments these are not required to have a resolution or whatever, or what happened a meeting or two ago? Or these different kind of appointments?
I don't think we ever have a resolution for appointments like this.
We didn't. I think we're going to at the full edge meeting because of what happened at the full edge last meeting. They're going to be broken out.
Okay. I'm good. These are by committee appointments here
Right.
in this committee, and then they'll be put on a resolution.
That's the way I understand it. The county attorney wants it, yes.
Okay.
All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Janine, I don't see her here. Is she on? Yeah,
Yep.
Janine. Janine?
Hello.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, can you hear me now? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, I gave my report and, okay, I see it on the screen now. Does anyone have any questions for me? We did complete the negative declaration for the seeker for the regional project. It should be published probably this week. I think it would be in the DEC notifications. So when I get that, when I see the publication, I'll send it over to the county attorney so they have that on file along with, I sent out all their paperwork to them.
Anybody got any questions for Janine?
Janine, real quick, the Sterling Village of Fairhaven Water, did you submit the proposal?
No, not yet. I know that someone on our board met with the supervisor there this past week. I have not seen the proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all set, thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, Janine, this is Legislator Kerr. I was wondering if you could just kind of walk us through a few of the next steps with the second source of water once the seekers all complete, I guess, and the comment period's over. What are the next steps that you guys?
Sure. I'm sorry, what was the last part?
Just the next steps in terms of, district formation, funding, looking at funding and project staging and stuff like that.
Right. And so we are now reaching out, but I know that we have a meeting tomorrow. So we'll be talking at our board meeting tomorrow about how we will come in and hopefully present to the legislature where we are and have some guidance from the team there, the legislators and the attorneys. But I know that it's on our table for tomorrow to discuss that. And certainly we want to go out and do some more PR, talking with the towns and villages about it and see where we're going. But we have the package ready now. As soon as it goes through the DEC, environmental notification process, that will be complete. So at that point, we'll be able to send packages out to the funding agencies too.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Anybody else? Brian, you got anything for Janine? No? All right, thanks, Janine. All right, Kyle.
Have nothing to add to my report.
Okay. Anybody got any questions? Come on, Jim, don't disappoint me.
All right, so since you asked. So we've been,
Andy, I don't have any questions.
All
You
right,
know,
I'm
just
good.
taking notes. All right.
you got a question or not?
No, I'm good. I'm good. We can bellyache about it later.
All right. Anybody else got anything for Kyle? All right, Kyle, you got off easy. All right, Gary, you won't, I know.
Just a couple of things I wanted to mention on my update. One thing I was going to present to you guys about a little bit. I'm working with the architect about the Hardenberg roof. And there are 3 roofs on that building. There's an upper roof, a mid roof, and then the roof over the old bank drive-through. We could take a look at that once we have pricing, and might want to consider tearing that off as opposed to just putting a roof on it. It's basically a parking lot now. On the other hand, it requires some thought, and because maybe somebody feels that that's a value as a bank drive-through. Some bank wanted to rent it or buy it someday. So just putting it out there for you guys to ponder. Down on County House Road, we have converted the public safety building. Like that was completed on 6/8. Couple of new business items to talk about. We're going out to bid on cleaning for the county office building, mental health, Hardenberg, and the old jail. Working with HR on some job specifications for buildings and grounds. And starting next month, I'm going to include some project updates. I've got 12 projects I'm working on, and I'm going to have a separate section that says project updates, so you guys can stay current on all that stuff. And with that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Any, going out to bid, how many bids are we looking for?
Well, basically, when we go out to bid, we take as many bids as come in. Typically, for cleaning, we get 4 to 5 bids.
I'm assuming who we're with now is bidding too.
Yeah, who we're with wants to get a copy of the bid. We have 2 companies that we work with now. Both of them have requested copies of the bid, but it'll go out to the general bidding public as well, of course. So we will almost certainly get bids from both of the ones that we currently have, and probably some others, maybe. I know last time the other people were way out of whack with what we were able to get.
What was the length of this last contract? Can't remember. 3 years?
The current contract was a 2-year contract, basically a 2-year contract with 2 1-year extensions. And that 4 years is up now, and we have to go out to.
Anybody else got anything for Gary?
We've talked about this before, I know, with the public safety building now back on NICEAG, and that digester project is getting revamped, and new construction happening over the next year. At one point, we were looking at the potential for capturing the waste heat digester to heat the water in the jail. And I was wondering, how do we get that back on the radar? And or do we want to look at that as a body, get some cost estimates and see what it would take to do that type of a project in parallel with the other work that's going on out there?
Yeah, I mean, that's another project that we could certainly take a look at. I'll talk to them and see if they're interested. If they're not interested, it's a moot point, but if they're interested, then maybe we could certainly take a look at it.
Scary.
You want to do your resolutions now, Gary?
Whatever you guys would like to do, I'm happy to do it.
As well.
Okay. My first resolution this evening, authorizing the chair of the Cayuga County Legislature to sign a 1-year extension of the agreement for the cleaning of 2 county buildings, the county courthouse and the historic post office. Just by way of history, this is the other contract that we have. We're at the end of the 2 years. We're going into our first 1-year extension. Most of this is paid for by the court system. Court system is very happy with the current cleaning company. My experience over the years is sometimes they're not happy. And when they're not happy, I'm not happy because they're, so I believe that it's in our best interest to re-up with them for another year. The company's willing to extend it at the same pricing, which we actually received 2 years ago, which I think is remarkable this day and age. So I thought, let's try to go for it if you guys are willing to do that.
You have a motion?
Yes, legislator Basile?
Okay, I think it was Hans. You can be the second. then.
Sure.
All right, discussion. So I got one question on that then. If this is a 2-year with 2 1-year extensions, they're happy, do we have to go out to bid after those extensions are done or just give them a contract?
After the 2 extensions, typically the county attorney insists that I go out to bid. So there must be a rule that we have to do that, unfortunately.
Oh, we don't always care what he says.
Well, I have to, so
Court people are happy.
I know.
All right, anybody else? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Okay,
PW2.
PW2 is authorizing the Buildings and Grounds Department to hire a mobile work crew supervisor to fill a vacancy.
I have a motion.
Second.
Second, Christina, she got you. All right, any discussion on that? This is to fill a vacancy.
Yes.
Oh, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, PW3.
Okay, thank you. PW3 is authorizing the hire of 2 part-time laborers to assist with mowing, trimming, snow removal, and other labor-intensive functions around county buildings and communication towers.
I have a motion.
Move it.
Christina, can I have a second?
Second.
Hans? Any discussion? Good luck. All right, if not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right,
Thank you.
carried.
Thank you.
All right, Doug.
Good evening. There's lots of updates. A lot of it's about summer programming. Our current projects that are under construction, both at the park and up at the nature center. There's a brief trail update. Install the trail bridge in the fall. Other than that, there weren't any earth-shattering ones in there, other than we had to submit a resolution, and today actually was distributed to everybody. So if there's any questions on the report, I'd take those now.
What's the date for that installation?
Bridge take.
Yeah.
We gave them a window between the middle of September and the middle of October, so we haven't gotten the actual manufacturer's drop date yet.
So are we looking at that trail being fully functional this season, this winter?
It's not in our, it probably won't be in the trail inventory for the snowmobile grant, just because it has to be in now. Like, we have to submit those now, and without the bridge in place, they won't let us submit that trail section. But as far as in our trail inventory, yeah, we have a right of way on the other side of it. So at the time the bridge was in, you could go around the perimeter of the daily property there and use the right of way that's there. We need to do some more trail establishment in there though, in that section.
So once the bridge is in, we probably will be using the trail is what you're saying. Okay. What else? Any questions? All right, I'll do your resolution.
So there was,
Did you have one?
I just, with the programming, will you have food trucks and stuff up there too, Doug?
yes, I mean, we're attempting to have those scheduled. The Friends of Emerson are actually been doing a lot of the scheduling. Some nights have been easier than others to get multiples. You know, the beginning and the end of the season, those programming nights will be a little bit larger, so they're trying to get multiple food trucks. The goal for the Wednesdays and Thursday nights is to have at least one food vendor there. I think they have one scheduled for all of those so far, but we may have multiples because of different product lines that they'll be offering. But that is the goal. Yeah.
I think there's about one movie here I've actually heard of.
Well, good. We'll see it all of them then. Catch up all in one shot.
I don't know what that means. All right, let's do your resolution, which Doug called me about yesterday. That's why it showed up.
Thank you for for putting that on. We just did receive notification of a grant that's coming from the Emerson Foundation to support programming within the park for this summer. We did apply for that a little while ago, so we just got notification that we received that grant. And so in order to accept the grant, it would require a resolution from the body in order to do so.
We have a motion.
I'll move it.
Christina, can we have a second?
Second.
Tim, any discussion? So the only thing I'm gonna say is because we've had this argument for 7 years that I've been here now about resolutions being pushed on, emergency, whatnot. It's a grant, so, you know. Why not accept it? So that's why it was, but Keith's not here to make that anymore, so we're good. Anybody else? Jim?
Programming. What's the definition? Music, is it activities, is it, or is it?
It's all of those.
Right?
Yep,
Okay.
that's
I'm
all
good.
of those. Yeah, our
I was-
programming is any of that. And it specifically refers to programming that we are contracting or assisting with the Friends of Emerson, the Friends group that are putting it on. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, is this something, is this a yearly one that we apply for, or?
We have in previous years, it was specifically usually drafted for the fireworks. So it was about 12,500 has been the number in previous years. I had a conversation with the foundation a while ago about the fact that we were expanding programming to do movies and music. And so we expanded the ask for the grant to be not only centered on the fireworks, but all of the programming for the entire season.
So we will ask again next year.
Yep.
Trish?
I guess I just want to make a comment that this is one of those things that it's great to be able to get to the phase of voting on this. I know that there's been so much work planning and from parks, from the master plan to the redevelopment programming plan, and to get to this point of execution and rollout is really exciting. And I know that it wouldn't have happened without the Emerson Foundation. So I just wanted to recognize, and thank them on the floor for their support for the park and for the work that you guys do.
Yeah, and in addition to that, I mean, the Friends group has really taken over the reins of actually doing the recruitment for the bands and bringing in the food trucks. We're providing all the logistical and operation support. And that's really only been possible, particularly because we have the construction going on at Sterling, which obviously takes up a portion of my time. It's been very beneficial to have my deputy director on now, Manette, who came on last summer. It's been essential. I wouldn't have been able to do both of those things, I'm sure, without that staff. So it's been very helpful.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Brian?
The only thing I have to add to mine is under the ARPA stuff. Now that the contracts are signed, we're gonna start site prep for the salt shed next week. We're gonna start the demolition.
When is Bonner Bridge Road? I see all the culverts in.
Next year.
Oh, okay.
We're prepping it for next year.
So those will get capped then.
Yes, the south one, yes.
And one down just out of Meridian.
Yeah,
Across that with the tractor today, that was a job breaker. So that's next year, okay. And we're still paying full shot for that.
south end wasn't done. We're paving the south end of Bonner Bridge, south of the river.
But we're paving the whole thing, right?
South end from the river south. Section wasn't done yet.
We're not repaving the screw up from 2 years ago.
Not yet. We'll see what funding is for next year. How's that?
Well, we dropped the ball on that 2 or 3 years ago with the crap job they've done, and you've heard me bitch about it for 2 or 3 years, so. Well, you may not have, but others here have. That's why we hired you, so.
What's that? No.
All right, you have 2 resolutions. Anybody got anything else for Brian before we go to his resolutions?
I just want a quick, question, if I may. It says here the agreements for snow and ice have been given back to the town highway superintendent. Have they been responsive? And
They're trickling back in now with their information, yes.
any pro con, or do you feel you're favorable of The agreement?
I haven't had any negative feedback.
Okay.
I believe they're all gonna sign.
Excellent. All right, thank you.
Yep.
I got one more question for you. The roadside mowing. Have we picked up any new towns?
No, we're still with the same that we had the last 2 years.
I or borrow you, because apparently their tractor's broke.
Uh,
Love how people call their county legislator to complain about the town sites not being mowed.
we
It's,
sent them a mower the other day.
did you?
They're borrowing one of our spares, so
Okay, because I'm like, you're calling the wrong person here.
they were getting pretty bad up there.
Oh, God, it's horrible. I mean, it's like, yeah, when you gotta go like this in a tractor, imagine what it's like in a car
Can you bail it?
to see around the road, around the corner.
aid.
Yeah. All right, let's do your resolutions then.
PW4 is authorization to fill a highway supervisor position that's been vacant. The funding for that's gonna come from the senior engineering tech because we cannot get any applications for that position. My personal feeling is we're not offering enough money for the training that the senior engineering tech requires with the job market we have now. So to fill the void, this highway supervisor position that's vacant, if we fund it through this process, it'll fill the void that we have since he's left, since his retirement. Pick up the work that he's doing. We can still do it with that job title.
Have a motion?
I'll move it.
Christina, can I have a second?
Second.
Any questions? No, if not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, PW5,
PW5 is to purchase a Trout River live bottom trailer. It was in our budget process. It's all funded.
I have a motion.
Move it.
Second.
Second, Jim, any questions? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, anybody opposed? Anything else, Barry?
No, that's it for me.
When will Jordan Road be done?
Tomorrow.
The whole.
I'll be done tomorrow.
All right, anybody else got anything else? Anybody want a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I see y'all did that all at once with Jared. Did you catch who did it and who seconded it? 'Cause I didn't even.
Basile made the
Motion
motion.
people.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I don't know why you would be. That wasn't
Muted.
really quick, it just.
No, okay.
Good meeting, Andy.
Good job.
Too bad they all were like that.
We good? Yeah, awesome. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum and Lydia had just walked in. Lydia, so I'm glad that you were able to join us.
Oh, I've been here. You just.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, I thought. somebody said
Wandering
you weren't
around
here.
and playing the hostess, you know.
Very good. Thank you for that.
Is Mr. Strong here? Oh,
There he is. Can I get a motion for the
Minutes to approve, Mark.
Second.
Okay, second by Basile. Any discussion on those minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? They're carried. Thank you. No appointments and no presentations. And we're going to start with Mr. Lynch for planning economic development.
Yes, thank you. I don't have anything to add to my agenda tonight. I want to make a correction, a note of correction on the bullet that talks about the Town of Conquest Comprehensive Plan meeting. It is this Thursday, June 16th, not next Thursday, June 21st, in case anybody was thinking of running up and joining the meeting. Other than that, I do have 4 resolutions this evening. Madam Chair, if you want me to go through them now.
Yes, let's get right to it. Thank you.
PO 1 is relatively routine. It's signing a memorandum of agreement with a research assistant from Yale University to work on our 9-element plan modeling. This is money that's in our professional services budget line and just gives an MOA so we can work with this individual through the summer into September.
Okay, can I get a motion on PL1? I'll move it.
Second.
Discussion on PL1?
Yes. We're running out of acronyms. SWAT.
90, usually, we don't even write that out. so.
It is written out, but I just thought it was funny. SWAT. Okay, sorry. Keep it going.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you. The PL2 is one of 2 applications for consolidated funding application grant funds to New York State. This one is on behalf of the Village of Union Springs, where the county will be the applicant. Union Springs is putting cash and a little bit of in-kind work into the required matching funds. Planning will put some staff, non-cash, in-kind services into the required funds. And this project is to create an ADA compliant kayak launch at Frontenac Park, right on that part of Cayuga Lake.
Motion for PL2. I'll move it. Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion? None, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Number 3, or PL3, is another CFA grant application. This one is for Emerson Park. I will note that I sent out, there's a sort of a project description and a graphic associated in your in the committee report. And I also sent out the 2015 master plan and the 2018 programming plan as additional background, understanding that some new legislators might not have this information and might not have seen it. So I want to start, sharing that with everybody. This is a $1.75 million grant. I will note that there's a gap of $250,000 in the required in the project itself. I wrote the grant such that if we cannot fill that with some outside funding, we will not submit the grant. We don't have the authority to submit it, but I wanted to kind of move it along so that staff can start working on the grant as we at the same time are working to try to secure that outside funding gap. The county already has committed the matching funds in the ARPA money from last December.
Okay, can we get a motion for
Move it.
discussion? Second. Awesome. Okay, discussion on this. Questions?
I do have one question.
Go ahead.
Is there a time limit, Steve, on filling this gap?
Well,
What you're working against?
yes, I guess the time limit would be the deadline for the application, which is July 29th. So
Of this year?
yes. So we're actively working on filling that gap right now.
I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit if I keep. So when you say actively, are there other grants that you're in line
Meeting
with?
with community organizations,
Oh.
philanthropic institutions, asking them for grants and those types of things. Not other grants that we would have to apply for, just local
match.
fundraising.
Okay.
So in those conversations, do you have a level of confidence that you're gonna be able to find that funding?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, Steve.
I was gonna look at you.
Great.
We've been encouraged, but we don't have anything in writing.
Understand how that goes.
I think you're asking for $20.
At least. Free parking. Any other questions? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried, thank you. PL4.
And PL4, as I navigate over, this is for another consolidated funding application. This is together with the Village of Fairhaven. This is to do the design, schematic design and planning and cost estimating for what's called the Community Connections Trail, which will essentially connect Lake Ontario and West Barrier Beach down through the village of Fairhaven and then hopefully right out to the state park. So this is got planning staff in kind work on it. And I believe it does also ask for a gap of 22, is it, Jim?
22,000, rough plus or minus. 22 plus.
22,000, 1,200 in ARPA funding to close that gap. And we provided some background information to legislator Basile, who can add any additional information if needed.
We can get a motion on it. I'd like to make a motion.
Discussion. A second. All right, discussion.
So just it's not only going to connect the state. What happens is the Parks and Trails dead end up near us, and this will connect the Parks and Trails in Cayuga County into Fairhaven and then spread out to Sterling, which is part of that'll be part of the lake. I forget what they call it. The Great Lakes Trail or whatever. It'll tie the state park in and so forth. And so like some of these other grants, you got to have the study done, the engineering done in order to apply for the grants to get the design, the design work and construction done. So I would look for your support on that.
Any questions for Jim or Steve? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, up next, is working employment and training.
So, good evening. I'm just going to highlight a few things in my report. I'm going to skip around a little bit. So I want to start with the summer youth employment program. So right now, that's probably the busiest thing that we're doing right now in employment and training. We received funds this year. We received just over $190,000 from OTDA, which is state funding. Once the admin takes a piece of that, we have about $182,000 to spend from now until September. So we're busy interviewing kids. We've outreached to every high school in Cayuga County. We have probably at this point, I would say over 60 applications for kids. We have about 50 slots. I don't anticipate having to turn any kids away. 50 applications doesn't mean 50 eligible youth, obviously. And also if we can fund them under our other grant, we would do that so that we could make sure we fill all the 50 slots with the income eligible, which is what the summer program is. So it's a fast program. It takes up a lot of staff time right now just because it's fast moving. We receive our allocation, we do orientation, financial literacy, put them right to work. They work through the summer with mentoring from my staff on a weekly basis, and then it concludes in August. we do receive additional funds through triple FS funds that we can often extend the youth so they can work into the beginning of the school year. That's something we've been doing, I want to say, for probably 5 years now, and it just extends basically the wage, their earnings into the beginning of the school year. The kids appreciate that if we have those funds. I anticipate that we will again this year. My program for our federal program, the budget year is July 1 through June. So we're wrapping up PY 21-22. This program year, we probably had more adults and dislocated workers in training than many of the other years. We paid for 17, it doesn't sound like a lot, but we paid for 17 adults and dislocated workers at $6,000 to return to school, which it's pretty significant. And this year we had 2 youth in training that we've never enrolled youth in training before. We've always focused on our work experience, but this year we put 2 youth in the welding program. And they're completing shortly. So that was one of our goals, was to use training dollars for youth. And we have had 2 in the upcoming program year. I hope that we can double that with youth in training and increase our work experience. So definitely seeing some success in our youth program. We received our new allocation for this coming year, starting July 1. How our funding works, it comes from the federal government, and it is granted to Cayuga, Cortland, which is the local workforce development area, right? So we work in conjunction with Cortland County, and Cortland County is the grant administration over the WIOA money. So we did just receive our funding, and that I did submit my preliminary budget this past week. Thank you to, and they're not here today, but Shireen and Lynn Marinelli accompanied me to the Workforce Development Board meeting last week, where I did present the preliminary budget, and the final budget will be due in September. But that allows us to start our program now. We don't know our carry-in money, so once we know that, we'll finalize our budget in September. But I do thank them for their support and attending the board meeting with me. As I mentioned, so the youth program, that was a program that I've never been a part of until I started in this role. There were years where we may have only had 1 WIOA youth enrolled in the program for the entire program year. I'm happy to say that this program year we had 12 just in paid work experience. That's significant improvement in the youth program. The other thing that I'm trying to do is we have youth incentive money that we haven't really utilized in the past. And one of the eligibility criteria for our youth is a high school dropout, right? And that's something that I struggle with, capturing high school dropouts, because it's hard to get those kids once they separate from school. It's hard to find them. When they're attached to school, it's much easier to locate them. I met with Dr. Keiko Kimura last week. CCC is looking at or will be doing a GED program now for Auburn at this point, accepting referrals from Auburn. So we're going to partner so that I can get my hands on the list of high school dropouts. We can enroll them in our program. Once they complete their GED, we have a $400 incentive. So right off the bat, we'll enroll them, we'll provide them with support and leadership. They get $400 upon completion, and we can start a pathway to a work experience. That was my vision all along. And I feel like with this opportunity with CCC being able to capture these kids, I think you're going to see the pathway actually happen. And it's been very hard to capture those youth. And for WIOA money, out of school youth it has to be our focus. We can't really spend money on in-school youth. So I'm really happy about that. And I think that that's going to be a great way for us to get our hands on those kids, help them with their GED, and help them gain work experience through our paid work experience program with pay a minimum wage. So again, I'm seeing positive strides in the youth program, which is definitely my goal moving forward. The other thing, and it was really first on the agenda or on my report, but I like to save it for last just because it's one of those topics that it always brings a little upward to the group. The Department of Labor is now, my report says they are not seeing people They are working at our front desk now in the afternoon, so my staff have such really that, yeah. So they are not serving customers in person. They're still doing virtual appointments, but they are working our front desk. So that cut staff time for us to be able to do what we need to do and not sit at our desk all afternoon. So from 1 to 5, the Department of Labor is now working in the resource room. So there's hope that, you know, we're moving forward. They're virtually seeing people. One of the things that has really hurt our spending in terms of dislocated worker money is that we had people on unemployment were coming in the door every single week. So that was a requirement. If they're collecting unemployment insurance, you report with your 5 job contacts, 3 job contacts, whatever the case is at the time. And then we find out who these people are, we're seeing them, and we can enroll them in our program. They're not coming in. So our numbers are down. So we're taking a hit on our spending because of that. So I've just created a referral process since they are doing virtual appointments, that the Department of Labor staff can at least refer the people to us since we're not seeing them because they're not coming through. When you're not required to come through, they're not coming through. So that's going to start after June 22nd. So I'm hoping to get a lot more referrals that way, just because dislocated worker funds are hard to spend. There's a ton of dislocated workers out there, and because they're not stepping foot in the office, it's hard for E&T to get them. So hopefully with this new referral process, I'll be able to serve more dislocated workers, which is also a goal for PY 22-23. So that's my Career Center update. With the folks that we've had in training, with the youth in training, the youth in paid work experience, we're serving on top of that probably about 250 people in a month. So we're seeing pretty good activity. I mean, certainly not that we were before COVID, and we're still trying to, recoup from that, but we are definitely seeing the numbers going in the right direction. So I am glad to see that. The last thing I want to share is we did welcome a new staff person to E&T. We definitely have been working on a short, we had 5 people, including myself, until a couple weeks ago. Now we have 6. When I started in E&T in 2003, we had, I think, 12. And we're still executing the same contracts with DSS and the same WIOA funding, and actually have increased a couple programs. So we're definitely happy to welcome, her name is Seth Bentley. She actually comes to us from the Finger Lakes Works Career Center. So we're the Cayuga Works Career Center. She comes from Finger Lakes. She was a Wayne County employee, and I snagged her, and she's amazing. She was a youth counselor for 4 years in Wayne County. And prior to that, she worked for Yates County DSS. So we hold DSS contracts as well as workforce, and she has experience in both. So she has definitely brought a lot already in 2 weeks. She's trained, she's teaching our youth person that we've had for 20 years. She's teaching him a thing or two. So I can't say how happy I am. I really couldn't be more happy. So it's amazing to have her, and we're really happy about that. As you can tell, I'm super happy about it. But other than that, I mean, that pretty much covers my report, and you can entertain any questions.
Any questions for Kelly?
I'm not a part of the committee, but I do have a question.
Sure.
For my own education, how do you define a dislocated worker? What situations involved?
Mm-hmm. So there's multiple things that will define a dislocated worker. So one might be a mass layoff or closure. Since we've had many companies close. So you have had, McQuay and Honeywell and Bombardier and Shot Fast Tech and all of those places. So when you have a mass layoff, they're considered a dislocated worker. If somebody loses their job due to no fault of their own, so it wasn't misconduct, but potentially the job was eliminated, they didn't have the skills to fulfill the duties of the job. So that would also classify you as a dislocated worker. Also could be that you've lost your job, collected I think it's 13 weeks of unemployment, unlikely to return to previous industry. So then you're considered a dislocated worker, and also your profile score. So when you file for unemployment insurance, the unemployment insurance division gives everybody a profile score, and based on that score, It could be marketable skills, previous work history. Basically, chances to return to the workforce might be a little bit, there could be some barriers or challenges to return. So they'll classify you as a dislocated worker. And with our program, when the federal government allocates funds, they break it down into 3 categories. So we get adult funds, dislocated worker funds, and youth funds. We always get significantly higher dislocated worker funds. We can make a dislocated worker an adult if we run out of money, but we can't make an adult a dislocated worker. So an adult would be change of career. They could have left their job on their own and just wanted to change what they were doing, or they just need additional skills. Adult is much more flexible than the dislocated worker. And then there's the trade act. So if you're a dislocated worker due to foreign trade, then you fall into another category. And instead of $6,000 training benefit, it's $20,000 benefit and a wage subsidy if you're over 55, because we consider it harder to re-enter the workforce at 55 and older. So you can get a wage difference.
Thank you.
That was a really thorough answer.
Sorry.
I
Yeah,
really
I'm
appreciate
sorry.
that. No, that's very good. That was a good question. Any other questions for Kelly? Kelly, I appreciate all the information. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kelly.
We have next, Anthony Broadwell.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Continues though.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not as thorough as Kelly. I'm sorry. I hate to follow somebody like that. I do know what I'm talking about, but not as extensively as she does. Listen, the only thing I do have to add besides a report that I submitted is the last bullet point said that I was working on putting together a meeting with Amy Gabriel, the interim CEO at Cayuga Milk Ingredients. Everybody knows, I'm sure in the room, that they have lost their president, Cayuga Milk Ingredients. And everybody is aware of, he was the one negotiating their expansion. So there was some concern, not a lot of concern. I hate to use that word. Concern. There was some concern about what their plans are at this time. So the CCIDA board asked me to put together a meeting with their board members, as many as that would participate, along with the interim president, to talk about, are they still on track to do the expansion? And so we had that meeting today. It was an informal meeting. It was a very good informal. And well, you'll be pleased to know we will get something more formalized to you and to the legislature itself, telling them that they will proceed with the expansion. So that's what we really wanted to hear. We wanted to understand if were they going to wait till another CEO was placed, or what was their the economy's changing. Was that an indicator of how they thought about moving forward? So right now they're proposing a $145 million expansion. So it's significant. And as I said, the good news is they're moving forward. We started to lay the foundation about some of their further needs. Everybody is in the room is aware of, you have been so gracious to put up $400,000. We have applied for an EDA grant, and I submitted the final paperwork on the EDA grant last Friday. I don't know if you saw the notice in the public notice in the newspaper was last week. That was the final step of that grant. We've sent that to Philadelphia. We expect to hear back in the next couple of weeks. There shouldn't be a problem with it, but I'm in no position to say we actually are firm committed to that grant. We're moving ahead with the understanding that thing looks very good. And that's the update for that. I have nothing else, but I'd be glad to answer any questions from what I put down there, if anybody has any. Yes, sir.
Brad, how are you?
Good. How are you?
So how many jobs, estimated jobs?
90.
90. That was more than we were told before. 68.
The full expansion we talked about. I'm sorry to turn my back on everybody. Not a good place to. The full expansion. They have expansion plans, additional expansion plans, but what they're talking about in that first step is up to 90 people.
Great.
And so we'll be talking with the ESD and state, because that's significant. $145 million plus that amount of jobs. Over time, I'll let you know more about those conversations. We haven't really initiated that, just in the periphery, that people are aware it went on. They want to hear a little bit more about if it's still going on, but there's nothing significant to talk about except those numbers.
Well, that's great news. Great news for this county.
It is wonderful, and hopefully, we'll keep that momentum, not just with them, but as soon as that's in the marketplace, it has people looking. When that hits and jobs are created, all of a sudden people start to look and say, hey, I'm sorry, that really bothers me to turn my back on people. So we're really excited, and I know the board's excited, and I'm sure you're excited too. So just that momentum can be an enormous thing for us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Additional questions?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great job. Thank you.
Next, we have Doug Kears.
Hey, everybody. All right, just a couple things for us. This is the first opportunity I've had to see you all, and want to thank you for the resolution last month with the ARPA funding that you supported. So I know there's a lot of decisions to make, and I want you to know that we definitely appreciate the support and the funding for the projects that passed last month. So thank you for that. For us, construction season is going on. We've had some really good weather, a little stretch here and there, some rain, but for the most part, we're able to keep rolling. We have a lot of bids. We have 3 more bids out right now. The bid projects are starting to begin that we've already bid out for the year. So those other bids will be awarded here in July. So if the weather holds out, and we were able to complete a couple projects in the last couple of weeks due to the weather. We're continuing on a project down in Moravia with the flooding that occurred a few years ago. If you guys remember that or familiar with that, we had a multi-phased approach to it, and we finished one more component of the stream corridor leading up to Main Street, and then starting next week, I was talking to Highway Superintendent Brian Soper. We're starting that with his crew next week to start installing some subsurface and some shaping and grading of the road ditch up on Oak Hill, which would cut off more of the water from running down and control it. And hopefully that'll mitigate some of that flooding. And that'll be phase 4. And then the last one would be a winter project to do the stormwater basin that's on an upland slope. So we were able to finish one small project with that and then gear up for the larger one. And then we helped the town of Montezuma actually on an oddball project that's been a few years in the works on access to the canal and the river. They received a grant from the state Office of Historic Preservation to install a parking area off of Route 31 near the Aqueduct Canal section of the river. And we offered to assist them install that. So that finally came to fruition as well because we had some decent weather with some shade and grading. We struck a deal with Montezuma National Wildlife Refuge to utilize their composting facility that they were restroom that they were trying to get rid of, and we happened to find a taker in terms of town of Montezuma. So we saved about $10,000-$15,000 probably on that just by working the 2 groups together. But it's been a great year, and hopefully we'll continue to keep installing projects to go along with all our other site visits and drainage questions, concerns that we get regularly. You better answer any questions.
Any questions?
Hey, Doug, the harvester that we approved through ARPA,
Yes.
how is it made? Is it been ordered? How long does it take? Because everything's backed up.
Yeah, we've talked to them. It's going to take about 16 months or so.
Really?
Yeah, if they can do it sooner, they'll try to do it sooner.
So it won't be ready till, wow.
Our other one, thankfully, will at least get through this season. So,
Okay.
yeah, we
Thank
got that
you.
one's ready to go.
Thanks.
It was. So thank you, Dave, for
Welcome.
asking the question, saving all that time.
Any other questions? Yes.
Doug, just on the ARPA requests, the surveying equipment, did we get that ordered or?
I didn't order anything yet. We haven't gone through the contracts. I don't know what the procedure is actually yet to order it up. So I didn't want to spend it. We have an up-to-date quote. I just didn't know really what the procedure is. I have no problem ordering. They'll probably want payment for it.
Get a hold of Lynn on that.
Okay. I was gonna say,
We'll do.
Thank you.
Other questions for Doug? All right. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Doug.
Thank you.
Great job. Thank you.
Mr. Welch from CCE.
Good evening, everyone. First thing I just wanted to make you aware of is, excuse me, in the state budget that was approved at the beginning of April, they increased the state allocation that the county extension associations get. However, by the time it's divvied up among the 54 counties that have extension associations, that increase wasn't enough for most counties to go out and, let's say, hire someone. The increase on my end wasn't even enough to hire a part-time person. So working with the Cooperative Extension Association in Seneca and Schuyler counties were working together to hire a environmental educator. That's going to work a little bit on water resources. Potentially, we have some similar needs and programs and solid waste education. And then there's several environmental related volunteer programs that have a statewide sort of format to them, but we haven't had the capacity to implement those here. So we're moving ahead with that. Our new 4-H STEM educator, Sarah Wagner, started in April, beginning of May. Sarah comes to us with a food science background, so that be a great fit in expanding some of that programming to engage youth. She's already done a couple programs. On July 6th, as part of our new partnership with the South Central New York Regional Ag Team, we'll be hosting 2 demonstrations, pasture walks of what they call their soil health trailer. And what's nice about that is a lot of things that we talk about in soil health, you can actually take sections of soil, and the trailer has everything to show demonstrations of what percolation looks like, how fast the water moves through healthy soil, what happens if soil gets over compacted, what's the benefit of soil with a lot of good biological activity. So that'll be July 6th. One of those will be around lunchtime in Troop, and then that evening the next one will be at a farm in Genoa. The youth fair is coming up July 28th through 30th at the Ag Museum. One update on that from last time I was here. In the last 2 weeks, the Commissioner of Agriculture and Markets lifted the ban on poultry shows because there have not been, since those initial detections of the highly pathogenic avian influenza in April, there haven't been any more confirmed cases in New York. So we'll have our youth will be able to show their poultry there. And then the final thing, like Doug mentioned, some of the work they do around drainage and site visits. This is also time of year where myself and Ron Cook, our ag educator, spend a fair amount of time answering just general questions from the agriculture community about pests, diseases, what's wrong with a certain plant. So that takes up a fair amount of time in our during the summer. Any questions?
I know that we potentially spoke about an upcoming tour.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if you might not have any details on that yet, but I know that I'm excited to get out there to see both the work that you've done and Doug and his team have done as well. So that will be coming.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, I did reach out to Aileen, myself, Doug, and the folks from the County Farm Bureau have been talking about putting together 1 or 2 opportunities this summer to see some different farms, some of the work, see some of the best management practices that Doug's team actually puts into place on the farms. See some different types of farms. So we'll keep you posted on that. And if anybody has something particular they'd like to see, reach out to me and let me know and we'll get that on there.
Thank you for reporting back about the chicken issue that we had. And I know that I saw prices go up with eggs. and with chicken, especially in our small stores like Ed and Jeans. So I'm looking forward to prices getting realigned and all of our fowl remaining healthy.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The unfortunate thing is prices never go down as fast as they go up.
Any other questions for? No problem.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. Karen Cool is the last to report. She is out of the country, so she has to report here. If you have questions, you can feel free to email her directly or myself, and I will get them for you. Any other things that we need before this committee? Otherwise, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you, everyone.